you can just go when you feel like just.
Yep, and just pretty much do what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
Just fall in place. So, all right, here we go. Hello and welcome one and all to the Guild Wars 2 Guru State of the Game stream. I'm your host, Grouchosaurus. Today we'll be taking a look at Guild Wars 2 PvP, its current state and future development. In order to facilitate this, we're joined by ArenaNet developer Jonathan Chaplan Sharp. Jonathan, what is your job title specifically and what do you do?
I am a game designer here at ArenaNet, and I focus on PvP and balance.
All right, in addition, we're joined by a few select members from prominent European teams. I'll introduce each of you guys here shortly. If you guys could respond with your main profession and the role you play for your respective teams, that would be awesome. So first up, we have Lowell from Super Squad.
Hi guys, I'm Lowell, I main Thief, and I play Roamer for the Super Squad. Well, Eclipse.
All right, we have Varee from Onibawan.
Yeah, hello, I'm Varee. I'm playing for Onibawan. Main role is a thief as a roamer.
Right, we have Xeph from Team Paradign.
Hey, I play Mesmer, and I play it as a semi-roamer.
Avalor from Chieftain Ninja.
Hello, I play the roaming engineer for CN.
All right, we have Metor from Team eStars.
Yeah, hello. I play Necro for the Team eStars, and I would say my role is to support my mates and roll the conditions.
All right, so I guess we'll start off here just kind of taking a look at the current, I guess the people would say meta inside the game itself.
Sure.
And I guess, Jonathan, is what we're looking at right now, is this what you guys, the target for the game? Is this what we want, or are we going to try to evolve in some other way?
Overall, yeah, it is. But you've got major roles like the roamer, which is a lot of what these guys play. You've got the guys who need to hold a position, more of the bunker builds that need to hold a spot. That's kind of the anchor for the team. We want to have that as well. We want to have the high DPS classes. But right now, what we want to do is start developing more builds for every single one of the classes, and just make sure that there's a lot of trait balance, there's a lot of class balance, there's a lot of skill balance in between each of the classes, so that there's more options for each of those different roles.
Okay, and how do you guys feel about the meta currently? We'll kind of just go around here, kind of like a round table kind of deal, so you guys can just kind of pipe in whenever you want, but I guess we'll just start off here with Lowell.
Yeah, I guess people expect me to talk about bunkers anyway, so the problem is not that big anymore because the biggest offender, which was, in my opinion, the block bug on Guardian, got fixed. Thank you. So yeah, right now the only bunker that seems, well, extremely strong is like based on Scepter Dagger Alley, but like it's still nothing compared to the block bug Guardian, and at least it can be dealt with, but still.
Yeah. Anybody else?
With current meta, yeah, I just agree with what Lowell said. I think the meta right now is correct. It's fine for me.
I also agree. I just think that the new rest timers have actually taken a bit off bunkering now and have enforced more roaming, because you just can't funnel into a point and you can't have that bunker sitting there. So.
And that was actually one of our planned topics. Do you guys actually like the new spawn timers? Like it's always the same amount, or do you prefer the old wave timers? I know Arena. I know Arena said they're going to keep an eye on the situation and kind of adjust accordingly. So which way would you guys like rather see it?
To be honest, right now the 15-second timer puts a bit too much on instant reses. Like I feel the meta game is too strong on instant reses. Like Necros, they have Signet of Undeath. Mesmers, they have Illusion of Life. It's just way too strong right now for the meta game. Like, if you don't have your res up, you're gonna lose the team fight, guaranteed. And I'm not sure if ArenaNet wants to put this way forward for reses.
Yeah, speaking for my team, it's like we don't run Reds combos or whatever, but we definitely feel it's way too strong. The Red thing is basically out of the game anymore, and the game just goes faster. If you lose the first team fight, the enemy team will just get a huge lead just by the individual Reds timers. We need at least 2 more minutes to regroup or whatever, and I kind of don't agree with this with this individual timers.
From a personal basis, I know not a lot of people like this, but I kind of like the new system. I think it can be tweaked, it can be looked at number-wise, but I like that everybody has their own individual res timer. At the beginning I was in disagreement, but after seeing it in effect, It's encouraged a lot of things. It's encouraged more teamwork and more backing off a point instead of suiciding into it just to keep it neutralized. So people, I mean, even for a viewer, it's a lot more enjoyable to watch that way. To watch people, try and back out of a point, try and survive, and then go for a different point. I don't know. It's encouraged more teamwork, I think. Before people ran individual builds, but now people think about the builds that they can best support their team with. I mean, the Res Signet is one of those. I mean, it's a utility that no one picked up before because the game wasn't as team-oriented as it is now.
Yep. And that's the thing too. Like with the new system, I mean, there's going to be pros and cons to this system versus the Wave system, and that's one of those things we can revert it if we need to. But we're watching the meta, and we think that it's kind of going where you're talking about, Xeph, of that, it's easier for people to understand too when they're watching esports that if somebody's down, they're just down for 15. That person is out. You got to kill. It's a 5-on-4 now. It's kind of a power play in hockey. You know what's up with that. The older system, you had to watch the wave timers. Expert players enjoyed it because they could time it. They could watch the wave. They can get maximum duration out of each of those deaths. But for new players, it was a lot harder to understand. But on the other side of that, the wave timers were easier for new players when coming out of a gate because you came out of a gate with the other people on your team. Whereas now you come on as an individual. So it's a little bit harder for new players when they're coming out of a gate. But it's easier to understand that if I get a kill, and I succeed in that, then I know that guy is out of the game for his 15 seconds. I know that, and that's kind of what we wanted to try and see how that would work for the high level players as well as the new players.
Like I understand. Oh, sorry. I understand that the 15-second respawn timer is another nerf to bunkers. Like you don't want bunkers to be able to hold in order to. They can't hold like 50 seconds against 4 people, so that your team could zerg back to the point. Like. That's another nerf to bunkers, but right now it just puts too much emphasis on instant resing. Like it's just you just use that utility slot guaranteed for the instant res. You don't really it kills build diversity in a way as well.
Sure.
But I mean, in counterplay, I can say that it gets redundant. The fact that a bunker sits there and people funnel on one point, because if you watch videos of teams constantly fighting for middle. That fight for middle could last from the beginning of the game till the end of it because of people constantly funneling into a point. That Res Signet is a one-time thing that you're going to use once every 100 seconds. And it could even potentially miss, or it could be interrupted by players who watch it. Quickness stomps can even counteract that, but nothing can stop you from timing reses. And I don't know, I mean, as a viewer, for me, when I watch other people stream, and especially American teams, it just became redundant. I got bored.
Okay, well, on the subject of being in downstate and whatnot, how do you guys feel about the new 75% downstate?
Well, speaking as a Chief, I don't like it. I mean, if you're dead, you're dead. That's no point of it. I think the combination of downstate and the new red system, it's kind of, well, for me personally, it's weird. I'm down. We will just DPS. They will just DPS me, and I'm down again. But for other classes, I don't see the reds anymore. Like, you don't see there that there's some guy running around and redsing. That was kind of a great part of our team, and that's basically out of the game. I don't like it that much, to be honest.
Okay, so that's like kind of.
However,
That's kind of from the being revived point of view, but how about for actually doing stomps? Are you guys just doing damage now, or are you actually trying to get the stomps off?
Damage.
Both.
It depends on the class, right? Is what I would assume.
Yeah.
Depends on the class.
Yeah, it does.
Well, that actually leads me to another point. Like, Elementalist downstate is way too strong right now compared to everyone else's downstate.
It's a buff.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It's like, I remember a thread that said Elementalist downstate 0 to hero or something like that.
Well, I mean, it needed to change. The old state was pretty rough.
Yeah, it was really not great.
So I think seeing a change in any way was better than just having them going on the existing state, because it was pretty bad.
But right now, let's say you have a team fight 4-4, and you manage to down the Elementalist first, and the other team downs your, let's say, Engineer first. They're gonna get the stomp off the Elementalist. I mean, get the stomp off the NG, guaranteed. Like, they're gonna have stability up, just a blind, anything. But Elementalist, you can't get him. You're just gonna misform away, and the whole team's gonna be next to him when he respawns and just res him up.
Super res, yep.
It is the only
talking about
uncounterable downstate ability, I'm pretty sure.
Talking
No,
about
but, Go ahead.
Sorry,
go ahead, Lowell.
go ahead, man.
No, you go ahead.
No,
I just wanted to say that, I mean, if you compare different downstates, the Ellie's is a personal downstate, while the Engineers is more, he can stop a stomp on a friend or pull a target back, and he also has an AoE knockback, all of which isn't available to an Ellie. Like, he can't help a friend from downstate. So, I mean, like, Mesmer, Ellie, and Thief have these selfish downstates, while, you know, a Guardian has AoE knockback, a Necro can fear, and an Engineer can pull. So, I mean, I just think the heal should be removed, the reset to 50%.
Sure.
That's
I
what
agree with the
wanted to
misform.
say.
Yeah, I agree that with too. Because in the current meta, you can just run 4 Elis and 1 Mesmer, and you're really good because every time you're dead, you just press misform, GG. Yeah.
Only if you got the spot, bro.
We tried it on the thing, and for us, we are not good at we are not main Elis, but it worked very well for us because you can't stop us.
Sure.
And I think that's not good for the game. If one downstate is with the new stuff that happened to Guild Wars, I think it's a way too strong. The complete downstate of Ele. And if you run not only 1 Ele, sondern 3 Eles or 4, then 4 people have this downstate. And we found it funny for ourselves, but I don't think that should be in the game right now.
Yep, and it's on our watch list when we're doing balance. We have another balance meeting today. That's one of those things that's on our watch list of like, hey, was this too much of a buff? Do we need to bring it back down again? It's the same type of thing with the 75%, right? That should maybe be 85% instead of 75% of what it was. You know, there's a number there that's going to make that play a lot better. So maybe 75 is just too low because, like you say, like the glass cannons, the thieves, and the Ellies and the Mesmers, if they're down, a lot of times you just DPS them out from a safe range and you're fine. Whereas like sometimes with a warrior or a guardian, you've got to close ranks to actually get on that guy to stop him to really be safe. You know what I mean? So maybe that's too much. 75% might be too much.
There's
but-
one thing that's not being taken into account at all in this discussion up to now, like because we talked about the new rest timer, about the new HP and downstate, but the third thing that makes it a real problem, from my point of view at least, is how strong AoEs are as of now. Like it's ridiculous to try to res or even stomp right now when you could just let's just land an instant res or 5 AoEs and make sure that guy is going to die and never be rezzed anyway.
That's also one of our big issues because the problem is exactly as you say, is if you have really strong AoE and somebody's trying to res a teammate, just hit both with the AoE, right? And you're hitting the guy who's on the ground as well as the guy trying to res him, which even if he gets the guy up, now he might go down really quickly, so then you can take that person down as well. So yeah, AoE is probably too strong for some of those sets. Yep.
You mentioned the so you mentioned the watch list.
Go, Nord, go. Just go.
I'm changing subjects here. You mentioned the watch list and how you keep an eye on certain things that are in the game for how strong they are. Can you talk a little bit about the balance philosophy?
Yeah,
that
sure.
you guys have?
So this has come up a lot on the forums, and to everybody who's listening, we read the forums every single day. I take time out of my day every single day to watch the PvP thread, balance threads, each of the classes. A lot of times what you'll see on there is people talking about balance, like, oh my god, why don't they nerf this? Why don't they nerf that? They over nerf this, they under nerf this. When is this class going to get a buff? And a lot of times our philosophy is to do really small tweaks, very slowly over time to bring things into equilibrium, rather than basically doing whack-a-mole and just like a really huge buff, and then a nerf, then a huge buff, and a nerf. It just throws the meta all over the place. So our philosophy usually is to do really small, metered changes instead of doing really drastic things all the time, which is why you'll see if we do... we'll do some adjustments to one class. We'll try to be careful with how many things we're touching. We won't touch every single weapon for a class, plus utilities, plus traits for a class. We'll try to pick a few things to bring things into alignment with one another, and then spread that kind of out to each of the classes to kind of bring everybody to where they need to be. Let me get my hands in front of here so it kind of makes sense. So the idea is that we want to do small tweaks. We don't want to do really drastic things. But on the forum, sometimes people will talk about like, oh, you know, I want to see this change right now, and I want it dramatically. I want to use this, and it's just like, if we changed everything really dramatically all the time, balance would be all over the place, and that's just not the way that you want to balance something that's as complex as an MMO like this. So we take really small steps with those things. We're trying to be really careful. Sometimes things slip through. We make mistakes, sure, but a lot of times the philosophy is let's do safe, small changes all the time. instead of
When you
doing
actually
really,
find,
really basic stuff. Go ahead.
When you actually find something that you want to change, what's like the workflow inside the studio for getting that implemented?
Sure. So we have, and I posted this on the forums. I can reiterate that now. We have basically a group of people who helps with balance. So it's myself. John Peters is there. We have Carl. He was a QA guy who plays a ton. He's now a designer, so he's always got his finger on balance. We have multiple QA guys, multiple designers. We have dungeon designers. We have world designers. We basically have meetings a few times a week, actually 2 to 3 times a week, and we'll have everybody bring their issues. And hey, this one skill is Portal is causing an issue for me right now in World v. World. Let's talk about how we're going to deal with that. So then we'll talk about those skills. We'll talk about the different ways that we can fix them. We try to keep everything, as you guys know, consistent between PvE and PvP, but we do have the ability to split skills if we need to. So we'll have that meeting. We'll come up with a set of changes that we want to do, and then the individual people responsible for those different types of content will go away and make those changes. A lot of times it'll be John Peters, Carl, myself, Isaiah, the lead designer, if it's a PvP related thing. If it's World v. World, maybe it's the Treb damage in one of the World v. World maps, or maybe it's the arrow card stuff. That would fall onto the World v. World designers instead. So basically we have huge meetings, we all talk about it, and then we go away and we all have different things that we do. And then we communicate throughout the week with email to say, hey, these are the changes we're doing, let's get them in, let's test them. We'll put them onto dev, we test it. If we like it, then that will actually get shipped out once we do a live build. So that's quick and dirty. That's kind of how the build process works for putting out those changes.
I have a question at you, Jonathan. I don't know if that is possible, but all players, I think they're here now, the teams, they're playing your game or the game of ArenaNet
Sure.
very, very, very long, and maybe 8 or 9 hours per day, to get to our level. And I think everyone here knows exactly what is good for the game or what they decide. And I think if you just ask the top teams what they want to have in the game, or what is broken now, or what think is broken, what you do then with the information of us, that's your job. But we can just give you the information, so what we think. And we play the game a lot, we play every day, 8 hours a day, and we exactly know, all people are here, what we want to have and what is OP or what is broken or what is good, what is bad. And I think everyone here would be enjoy to help you, or to help to get the game competitive, because
that's a great point.
we played so long as all teams, and I know everyone is here in the channel, and every good team knows the other team, and we are all friendly. I think don't think that the top teams have problems with each other, and I think we all could help to get the game to a good level of competitive gameplay, because we just play so much.
And that's one of those things too where we want to take. We do talk to some of the top teams. We talk to you guys, and that's one of those things we want to do, is we want to balance your feedback versus what we see on the forums, and that's a whole different issue if we want to even get into it. Of how do you balance for the top guys like you who are just you're playing a different game than what most people see when they just jump into the game. You see it in a whole different light. How do we balance for you guys as well as balance for the new players? That's one of those things that's it's always a challenge as a designer, as a balancer, because you basically have you think of some examples. You have the Master Yi problem from League of Legends. Is Master Yi broken at low level? Master Yi will eat through a team if he's built right at low level. But does he see any top tier play? Usually not, right? Because people know how to deal with him by now. 100 blades for a warrior, right? Is that completely broken? You see threads like there's another one right now, 100 blades. Like that thread has just been coming up forever. It just keeps popping up. Is that really broken? Like the top, you guys know how to deal with that, and a lot of you, I think, a lot of times won't even run a warrior with the current balance because they just get snared and they get shut down. Like it's really hard for us to get warriors to work right now against really good CC teams, which is one of those things where maybe they need some more resistance to that stuff. But it's another example, like Terran for StarCraft when it first came out. Back when we were first playing, Terran was just this clunky, unwieldy, difficult to play race. It was really hard to get to work. And then after a while, the community started to learn how to be really, really quick. Micro started to improve across the community. You started to see some of the top Koreans, Slayer, he got really big, and he started to show, this is how you play Terran. But if they had balanced it for the beginning player at the very beginning, Terran would have been completely broken for somebody like Slayer once he got a hold of it, right? So it's one of those things where people need to learn how to play, but at the same time, we have to balance feedback from the noobs who are coming to the game, who just want to learn, who they're fresh to everything, they don't really understand anything, versus you guys who are the becoming the pro tier of players, who you guys play all the time, every single class, all the interactions, all the trades, all the matchups. So we're trying to find a way to balance for both of those sets of players, which is it's a big thing.
Yeah, and I know that it's incredibly hard for you, but I think that the new player just don't know what the game is broken or not.
Sure.
We know what is broken. If they play longer, I mean, the new player enjoyed your game and is playing, and he maybe switched then to Warrior, and he see Warrior a lot of CC, but the main problem of the Warrior are conditions. You can snare the Warrior, but your team, if a good team, you can snare the enemy target too. But the Warrior have nothing against conditions. If you just condition him, he die. He can't do anything against this.
Meteor, I think what John Peters is trying to say is it's basically a two-sided coin. Like it'll like they'll balance towards.
John
Oh my God! Sorry. Jonathan is trying to say is basically it's just two sides to one coin. You're gonna have the competitive side, and you're gonna have the people who just started out in the game and they don't know much. I mean, when you start out through the gate and some warrior comes, quickness 100 blades you down. I mean, you're just obviously gonna think that's broken. Like I died in 1 second.
It's the first thing you do.
Exactly.
I got the wrong class. I play Warrior now.
I think instead of thinking of it that way, it's how can it be easier for the casual community to ease into the game.
We can kind of segue off that, because what does that really mean, right? So why is that player dying? What is their frustration? Why are they not really seeing what they want to see out of, how do I defeat that warrior? Like, it just, killed me. It must be broken. So sometimes you'll see this in threads. We don't want to say learn to play, which is basically what you're kind of saying, Metor, is like, they need to learn the game, learn how to stop that stuff, learn how to shut down a Master Yi, learn how to play a Terran. Don't just complain about how unwieldy it is. You have to learn those types of things. We don't want to just say learn to play all the time. That's not nice to them. So at the same time, it's like, well, what else do we need? Well, we need to have really strong streams. We need to have stuff like spectator mode. We need to have things that teach those players how to learn the game. And then if you look at something like League of Legends, it's like people they can just go on and just through osmosis, they can watch streams and say, okay, how do I play solo mid? If I'm bottom support, what is my job? If I'm a jungler, what is my job? If they didn't have the streaming and the community and all that stuff that teaches them how to do that, they wouldn't know. And that's why it's on us right now. We feel is like we got to get those key tools to make an esport, so that the new players can have a safety net to kind of learn from. So they can learn from guys like you, who they can say, oh, this is how you deal with that warrior. This is how you shut that down. This is how you deal with that thief that's trying to roam on the backside. You know what I mean? They can learn those things through you guys once we get all those tools set up. So that'll help, I think, too.
I believe in a blog post you posted a while back said that your guys' first goal was to get the custom arenas out. And then from there, you guys would kind of put in the other features afterwards. Is that still your top priority, or are you trying to look at other features for PvP?
No. So let's talk about that real quick. We have segued off for a couple of weeks with the key programmers for that, because we think that ratings and matchmaking might help even more. So it's going to be a really small thing, but we want to get that in. So that's what we're on right now. So we basically have most of the people working on custom arenas, and then we have a small set of people pulled off to work on ratings and matchmaking. And this goes to kind of what you guys were talking about earlier with the new players, is we want them to feel like, okay, I can get into a game, my matchmaking will kind of protect me against the really good players, and that'll allow me to play with people at my level, at my pace. And then it also means that you guys are not playing the new players and just smashing them all the time. You're playing each other a lot more in your setups. So that's one of those things we want to pull off, do that really quickly, and then get custom arenas ready for esports down the road. What was the question? Sorry.
Is this gonna be under tournament mode for rating?
Yeah, so rating is primarily for the matchmaking. What we want to focus on first is we want to focus on the free tournaments and the paid tournaments, and use it there first to just get people into the right tiers of who they should be playing against. We think that'll help a lot of people. It'll encourage people to play more paid tournaments if they feel like they're not just going to get curb stomped by you guys. And there are threads actually like, I don't want to just get curb stomped by the Team Paradigm and all those guys. They just don't want to do that, and that's a very legitimate problem that we are going to be fixing very soon. So we're going to do that, and then custom arenas so that you guys have a place to just go play and scrim each other like it was a shooter.
But are there any plans for a ladder-like type of queue, like one team against one team, one random map, and you win rating, like with or without ladder, but with rating?
Yes, I can't say too much, but yes.
Okay.
It's one of our priorities. So we could just go through Just think. I kind of wrote down kind of our key features right now that we're working on, and I can just list those off to you guys, so you guys can kind of see what we think is important. And some people will say, "Oh, dueling mode is the most important thing for PvP right now. We have to have dueling," and I just don't feel that that's really going to help the game overall. I think dueling is very important. It's on our list, but it's just not as important as other things. So stuff like the matchmaking and the rankings, being able to play a game that's comparable to your skill level. I think that's really important for people, for noobs and for high level players. Custom arenas is important. Leaderboards, which we've just mentioned, is very important. Spectator mode is very important. Daily and monthly tournaments, which is what all those QPs are adding up to. That's also something that we're working on. That's going to be very, very important for the system. 1v1. I mean, dueling is important. It's on the list. I don't think it's as important as some of the things we've just mentioned, especially for esport concerns, but it is on the list. And then stats and scoring. Right now, the system that we have is it's okay for a first pass, but we really don't like it. We want to put a lot more information in there. We want you to know that, okay, how is our thief, compared to their, how many conditions is our support Ellie taking off compared to their support Ellie? How much healing is our Necro dishing out with his type of stuff when he's trying to support people with wells and stuff like that? How many conditions has he taken off? You can't really tell those things right now. So we want to really improve the stat stuff and improve the game breakdown at the end of the game to let people have a better sense of their own progress and be able to juxtapose their own play against other classes maybe in the same game. So they can kind of see how they're improving over time. You can kind of gauge how well your teammates are performing at their various roles. So those are also very important. So let's just let you guys know that we've said it before on blogs, that those things are all very important, and we have the resources, we have the people, we just need the time. And we're not going to stop until the things on that list are checked off. That's just, when those things are checked off, then we'll say, okay, now we can focus on something else, because the esport community needs to have these things. They need these features, and we're just not going to stop until they're in. It's not as fast as maybe you guys want, but that's just how the workflow works. So we're just not going to stop until it's ready. So.
On ratings, are you going to have any plans in segregating solo queues and pre-made queues? Because that's a huge concern the community is looking at.
I've seen that. And people keep bringing up the analogy, right, of the random arenas and team arenas that we had in GW1. What we want to do right now is want to find out. We have a proposal for a system that we're going to try first, which is going to try to do both of those systems while keeping everybody in the same pool. So we won't do a solo queue just like a solo tournament and then a team tournament. But we do think that with the rating system, the way that we have it now, it's going to be able to balance out solo queues with their aggregate rating, and then matchmake that against team queues that have a similar aggregate rating. So it's just like you could play, if you guys played GW1, you could be on a really good random arena team, and you're actually better than most of the team arena teams in the pool at that time. And with our rating system, we'll be able to tell that and be able to match you up correctly when that happens.
Can you give us any information possibly on the monthly tournaments?
Sure.
Or how those will work?
Yep, it'll be really similar. We thought that we did really well with the GW1 system, so we're kind of going off of that as our base framework. We're going to be making some design changes to that, some programming changes on the back end, but a lot of the stuff we feel like was really strong for that. We want people to have QPs through the pay tournaments that they have now, and then those will build up to placements and entries into monthly tournaments down the road. And we'll also have daily tournaments, which will work in a very similar fashion. So that you could have, right now the plan is to have 3 or 4 major daily tournaments that's going to have a huge pool of players all coming together for one spot. And it's going to be, you won the daily at that time. Or if the monthly is like, there's one winner. There was one team that gets to say they were the best in their region. So that's what we're pointing towards with the daily and the monthly.
What's the main benefit of winning a monthly besides saying I'm better than you?
Monthlies point towards something else. Let's just say that. So,
okay.
You know what I mean? Like it says, okay, we've won a monthly. What does that do? That qualifies us for something else, which we'll talk about a little bit later when we're ready for it.
All right. You mentioned the timeline in the release of all these features. Do you have a rough estimation of when you think you'll have a majority of the features and make this an esport-ready game?
All of the features? I probably shouldn't give a timeline, and if the reason is because, like today with the stream, right, we thought we were going to be good to go, and it didn't happen, so 30 minutes late, it didn't work, and then we had to just record it. Similar thing happens with us, so I will say next year. I won't say exactly when, but yeah, next year we're going to have a lot of these things working. We actually have a lot of these things working internally, but as you guys have seen, we have to test things very, very vigorously, because we want to give you guys the tools when they're ready, and that sucks to hear when it's ready, but we don't want to give you something that's not working. If you put something out too early and it's got a lot of bugs in it, our last patch we had we had some bugs in there, so it's like, is it really good to rush something out and give it to you and be like, oh, but it's buggy? Like, that's not good for you, for us. So we need to be careful with these things and make sure that they're ready when they're ready.
What's ANET's philosophy about hot fixing something? Like, for example, this Vanir rune bug. I'm not sure if that was a bug, but I mean, it was basically a meta game. Like, everyone used Vanir bug.
They changed the game. Yep. That's one of those things where we have the ability to fix extremely high priority things very quickly. We just have to determine whether or not we think it's a high enough priority. So it depends on every single bug when it comes through. If it's something like nobody at all can play paid tournaments right now. Nobody can play free. It's like, okay, let's get that fixed right now. The programmers will actually have a producer with them to make sure that they're walking through the check-in process correctly. We make sure that everybody's on page. We get it to our internal servers. We get it checked. We get QA on it. We get it checked as soon as we can, and then we ship that out to the LAN servers. For most balance things, if it's not something that's completely breaking the game, we'll use those. We'll save those for the major patches when we put out the major stuff that hits, PVE and the dungeons and all that stuff, PvP together. We'll wait for that stuff if it's a smaller fix.
You mentioned earlier that you have some new plans for January, February. Is there anything that are going to be in those patches that you haven't outlined yet?
Yeah, I don't know if you talked about that. I won't say too much so I don't get in trouble with Chris Sly or with Martin. But so I can say a little bit. Moving forward, what we're going to be doing in January, February, March, we're going to be having different themes for our patches. And one of the patch themes, I can't give away too much, but is going to be entirely focused on PvP and World v World. So the company's focused on PvP and World v World. So that's going to be really exciting. I can't give all the details for that, but it's going to have a lot of the features we've just talked about. We're going to have some of those things on the list as well as some other things that I haven't mentioned yet. We just want you guys to know that stuff is going to be themed. And one of the themes for one of our early patches next year will be PvP and World v World. So.
We've been talking a lot about the January patches and next year. Like, what's coming in December, though? Like, on the 14th, I know that's the Winter's Day new patch coming. Like,
Sure.
What's new for PvP?
We're going to have a big balance patch, which is what I have a meeting today to make sure that stuff's going well. Balance is going to be the main focus. We're holding on to some of the other things that we've just talked about until early in the next year so that we can test them correctly. But we want to make sure that December has strong balance going out. So that's why we're trying to focus on balance to make sure that the Christmas time frame is really good for balance. It's really hard to get patches out during the Christmas time because a lot of the studio takes vacation. So we'll have days when it's, we're down to 70% strength because we have a lot of people who are on vacation. So the December patches are usually not as big as stuff. Once everybody gets back and you get to February and March, that's when those major patches roll in because everybody's working full speed for those.
All right, how do you I see a lot of complaints in the forums about this, but how do you feel about the communication with the community from ArenaNet?
Sure. It's good. It's not as good as it should be. We can talk a little bit about why maybe we don't say more stuff. It's when we talk about dates, if we give you guys a date and then it slips, then it's like, well, crap, now you guys feel like we lied to you, and it's like, well, it just happened that flu went through the office and hit one of the programming pods, and now we've lost like 2 or 3 programmers, out for a week, and it's like, well, crap, we didn't really plan for that. That's just going to hit us. So we have to be careful with, giving you guys dates and stuff, which is why we're really reluctant to do those a lot of times. And that's just something you'll see across the entire game development world. I mean, you have to be careful with giving people dates for those things because a lot of times things can just happen. But at the same time, we do want to be as transparent as we can be with you guys, which is one of the things that I try to get on the forums and talk to you guys more. A lot of times we'll try to be careful with forum posts, as you'll notice. Any major forum post that I put up, I'll actually send a community and say, hey guys, I just put this up. Could you localize this into other languages for me so that we can get this to everybody? Because normally, I don't want to just be, talking to English readers all the time on the forums. So we try to communicate better through making sure if we have a really big post, we try to get it to everybody in all languages to make sure it's good for everybody. The blogs are another thing that we try to use to communicate with. In the past, we've tried to use that. It takes a long time to get a blog post written. Unfortunately, because there's just so many things that have to happen for it. We've got to get art for it. We have to have localization sign off on it. Marketing's got to sign off on it. Community's got to sign off on it. Design's got to sign off on it. Like, everybody has to say, okay, we endorse this. This is something we can say as a company. That's why sometimes, even if it only takes me a day to write it at my desk, there's still, a lot of process that has to happen to actually get that to you guys as the readers. And then also, just stuff like this. We do want to communicate with you guys. We do read the forums. A lot of times, though, we're busy. And if we're not posting in every single thread, the reason is that we're working on stuff. So that's why a lot of times if you don't see us, if we're quiet for a while, it means that we're probably working really hard to get to some patch. That's probably what we're trying to do.
That's a little bit reassuring, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you can ask more. I mean, other stuff you want to ask about for that?
I guess we haven't touched on the ESL thread that
Sure.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting. For you guys that don't know, Electronic Sports League is just like an esports organization essentially that tries to pick up certain games and sponsor them and have tournaments like you might see like League of Legends, StarCraft 2, and whatnot. ESL did go on Reddit and mention that they would be interested in basically doing some stuff through Guild Wars 2 once the custom arenas come out. I guess it's probably a pretty good thing. You get pretty excited about that, John?
Yeah, I am. It's one of those things we feel like is eventually going to happen. We think that GW2 is probably positioned to be an esport. It just needs those things that we've talked about. Like it needs those custom arenas, right? It needs the spectator mode, which is why those are our the top things at the top of our list. It's exciting to see those guys talk about it. We've had requests from some other people as well wanting to talk about GW2 as an esport, and it's exciting for us. It's exciting for the players. I think it's going to bring a lot of players back once they see that support coming in for the game. So we're just excited about it. It's going to draw a lot of players to the game. We're just excited for you guys as some of the top players and the mid-rank players. They're going to be able to actually get kind of famous playing GW2, and we think that's really cool for you guys. That's what we want to see.
Are you guys pretty excited for that? All you players?
Oh,
Yeah, of
that's
course.
why we started playing, I guess.
That's end game. That's what we want to achieve.
That's endgame.
And yeah, it's end game for PvPers. But oh my god, I forgot what I wanted to ask. Somebody else, go ahead.
I was going to say one thing to that though, but one thing that has to happen for that is it's not to be a philosophy nerd and just quote Nietzsche straight up, but like you've got to be able to stand before you can really walk. You've got to be able to walk before you can run. And this is one of those cases where we want to have this stuff happen. It's not going to happen overnight. And we've just seen other games that have done well in the esports arenas. Like it takes time to build that up, which is why we're just going to have to just go down our checklist feature by feature and get it all done, and then just let the chips fall as they may. But we're just trying to go as fast as we can, but we can't just snap our fingers and have all those features done at once. So just going to take some time for that esports stuff to happen. That's okay.
You guys have any other thoughts on that?
I was just wondering why it was that there was a decision taken to have the game without rating at the beginning. Was it intended, or was it just because there wasn't enough time to get that in before the game was launched?
It's just order of operation, basically. If you have rating, but you have no free tournaments and paid tournaments, it doesn't matter that you have rating, because all you have is the stuff that's happening in the the random lobbies when you're just playing people. So we thought, let's do those two first, and then we wanted to go to custom arenas because we feel like that's so important for esports. But rating is just really important for protecting, especially the new players. Protecting them from the really advanced players like you guys. So we just said, okay, let's get the rating in there now. Let's stick that in, and then after that, we'll go to custom arenas directly afterwards. Again, we feel like spectator mode is important. Is it important if you have nowhere to play? No, it's not. You've got to have a custom arena first so that you can have a place that you practice and really scrim and get really strong, and then have places where people can come in and start to spectate. And then we'll start using that spectator mode to advertise the game more and teach people how to play more, which is why streaming is also very important for teaching new players. So it was basically just we felt that rating would come later in the process.
To kind of tie in what Xeph said, when the game launched, do you think PvP was ready? I mean, was there? If you can go back in time, what were some major improvements you would maybe do?
Sure, I think it was one of those. There was the question of do we just wait? Do we want to do wait till we have everything completely done? And we said no. There's enough here for people to start learning the game and developing their own play styles, developing their own strategies, developing their own leagues and stuff like that. There's enough to start with that stuff. So we said let's do that, and then we knew that with the time frame that we had and the estimates that we had, we knew that a lot of these features would start coming as they were ready. And then the decision was kind of made that, well, once we get a whole bunch of these, we don't have to have all, I listed like 8 or 9 things. We don't have to have all 8 or 9 of those and then ship it all together. We could do that, but if, if the matchmaking is in and the ratings are in, let's go ahead and give that to players now. If, as soon as custom arenas are ready, let's give that to players. Let's not wait and hold everything. Let's go ahead and give it to players as soon as it's ready. So that's kind of why we've kind of gone with that style of let's give them what we have when we have it, instead of just holding everything till the end, which that's just not cool for players if they want to play now. So that's kind of why we made that decision.
I think on the same note, I think a lot of people are going to be really excited to hear that you guys decided to move up the ratings ahead of the custom arenas in terms of release.
Mm-hmm.
What about the glory system? Because a lot of people are asking about it. I mean, is there anything special that ArenaNet is planning for the glory system, or is it just going to remain for purchasing the chests?
Right now, it's going to stay the way it is, but we do have plans to add some stuff to that will be applicable to other areas of the game, so that you can do different things with your glory than you can right now. So it's one of the things I can't talk about too much, but yeah, we do have other plans for the glory.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to bring this up, but loading screens is like, I don't know. I got a loading screen like 5 times yesterday, and I don't know if it's because of my computer or like it just really plagues the game hardcore. Like, is there going to be an ETA on the fix on that, or?
I think it's Monday, is what I've heard from programmers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the most important that I have that I can give you is I've heard that it's going to be Monday. So.
Yeah, I think it's like a small amount of players that are getting it, because in my team only maybe 2 players are getting it constantly, and I'm one of them, and it's just really frustrating sometimes. And
I think it's ISPs, isn't it? Because some people on my team also lag on certain maps and don't lag on others. And like one way to solve that was to use VPN, and people have been logging off and using VPN on certain maps and then turning it back off again. Yeah, one of them is me as well. I've done that several times. Turned on VPN for Legacy.
Yeah, for French teams it's pretty hardcore. Like 2 of the main French ISPs just lag between 7 and 11 PM our time. Like it's unplayable, just impossible to play. It's annoying, but yeah.
Just due to traffic, you think?
No idea. Like I think it's like some problem between the ISP and ArenaNet, but no idea. Like
okay.
Yeah, a lot of people have resorted to VPN. I have a subscription now.
All right, so Jonathan, I just want to ask you real quick here because I know we ran a little bit late with the stream networking and whatnot. How are you doing on time?
We can go for a few more minutes. Looks like we're at about 50 minutes. We can go about 10 more minutes if we need to.
All right. Is there anything you want to mention that you've got written down there, or anything that you want to talk about that we haven't talked about yet?
I think we've hit a lot of stuff. We could talk a little bit about. There's been a lot of stuff on the forums about there's 2 people working on PvP or. Right, so I made another post to kind of explain how some of that stuff works. I could talk about that a little bit more about how things actually work inside the studio. It's the case that a lot of times what happens is we might only have a smaller set of people working on PvP or World v World or Balance, like the smallest teams that are in and of themselves. But a lot of times they will be able to pull resources from anywhere in the company when they need them. So for instance, let's say that we need to working on a feature that needs UI. So, I might have a programmer who's just a UI guy, but then I can also say, okay, I also want to get some concepts for this done. So I can just go say, hey, I need some concepts for this. I can go say, hey, we're actually going to need some mock-ups for these other things that we want to do. Or we want to have a meeting with not just UI artists, but maybe with prop artists and environment artists as well. So we can go out and we can say, hey, we're going to pull you guys in. And then they can just sit with us for a little while, finish what we need, and then they go back. So even if we don't have like these massive teams that are hundreds of people big on PvP, at any time we can go and pull resources from the rest of the company if it's something that we need. So that was just one of the things that that thread I wanted to just leave it alone and just not even comment on it because I was like, that's crazy. No, we have more than 2 people. Why would? Oh my lord! They're not going to stop talking about this. Okay, fine. Let me just go and tell them how this actually works. And that's one of those things like communication, right? Like a lot of people don't know how game design and game development actually works. Like it's one of those things that I don't think many companies actually talk about how it works. So a lot of people don't know. So like there could be something like good example. People said, why did you guys not put out custom arenas this last patch, but you put out a new map? Let's talk about that exactly. The reason for that is this. When it comes to doing custom arenas, that's a lot of UI. That's a lot of UI programming. That's gameplay programming. That's server programmers. It's that kind of stuff. When it's a new map, that's me and Tyler, one of our other designers, scripting, and then that's our environment artist making the map for us to script. So it's an artist, and it's a designer, and it's a scripter working together, and then we need QA. We don't need programmers for any of that stuff, which is why we could say, okay, we can just do this map by ourselves over here and be developing this at the same time that we're still working on custom arenas. It's not the case that those 2 things pull from each other. But at the same time, there are some things like when we go down the list of like spectator mode and custom arenas and the matchmaking, those do use the same type of programming, and a lot of times it's people in the same code. And a lot of times you don't want to have 2 different programmers trying to write to the same code at the exact same time if it's the same code space. They're just going to be stepping on each other's toes all the time. Same thing with scripting if it's designers. You don't want to have two people trying to script the same map at the same time. You should just let one of them script it, and then the other one can break it up and do different parts, but you don't want to script the same things together. Like, you could just, I guess, sit next to each other, and one of you can actually type, and the other one can just dictate to them. I guess you could do that, but it's not really very efficient. So that's why, workflow, a lot of times for development, for all game development, it all comes down to opportunity cost. And opportunity cost, for maybe listeners who don't know, is basically the concept that if I have two decisions, if I have two choices that I can make, sometimes if there's an opportunity cost, what will happen is if I choose A, I cannot choose B. That's an opportunity cost. Sometimes choosing one precludes the other, which is why if you're doing, the matchmaking and the rankings and stuff, custom arenas, spectator mode, dailies and monthlies, if those are using the same people working in the same code, or if it's the same designers who need to be there, you can't be in multiple meetings at once. You can't code multiple things at once. You can only be in one set of code at a certain time, or you can be in one meeting. If you need to be a designer, you can only be in one meeting at a time. So it's just, if I go to meeting A, I can't go to meeting B, and I have to make that decision as a designer to know which of these is more important right now based off who else is in the meeting. So that's kind of really, quick and dirty kind of how game development works. Is a lot of times it just comes down to opportunity cost and making one decision over another. It's kind of how that stuff works.
I mean,
That's nice.
this could be a bit off topic, but aren't you worried because of the severe hemorrhaging of PvP players? I mean, the mists are looking more and more empty by the day, and it's worrying for us as competitive players, because there could be incentive for those people to come back in the future, but you always think in the back of your mind, what if they don't? And
Sure.
Isn't it sort of pressing that PvP changes come through now more than ever, like faster than PvE changes, possibly? Like, shouldn't it be the top of the list?
No, it's a very great point. I think that they're both important. I don't know that PvP is more important than PvE. I think that as PvP players, maybe you feel that way, and as a PvP focused designer,
No.
I might feel that way. Go ahead.
I don't mean it that way. I'm just worried because PvP looks a lot more empty. I mean, PvE you can still just go in front of Ara and see packs of people looking for groups, but in PvP you log on at certain times of the day and there's just no one in the mists, and queues take forever at certain times of the day. Like you just can't queue paid tournaments when you want to. You can't wake up in the morning and think I'm going to do one paid with a bunch of friends, because it's just not possible. You're never going to get a queue pop.
And we're still lucky in EU, because in NA it's much worse. So many teams are even moving to EU right now, so because they just don't have paid.
But I wouldn't say that at all. Basically every day at 6 p.m. you can play, and I see more and more teams coming up in paid. I wouldn't agree with that actually.
But that's.
I think Xeph opens up a good point, though, right? Yeah, which is, we do need to get those things in, which is why this goes back to a lot of times why, the rankings are really important, in matchmaking. That's really important, to make sure that players are getting matchmaked, I guess that's a word, with the right people that they need to be playing with. And then custom arenas is also very important, which is why I can't go into too much detail, but we actually have some programmers who their only job right now is to work on some of these features. Just every day they come in and that is their feature. That is all they work on. So that's the resources are there. We just need the time for those guys to get done. And I hate to say soon, because people keep quoting me in the forums of like soon means the next 82 years for sharp, so whatever. But yeah, those things they're coming down the pipe. They're being worked on. Some of the things that we had on this list, like they already work internally. We just need to test some stuff. And then once they're tested, then yeah, we got to start bringing those players back with those features. We got to start marketing the game more to those players. We got to start advertising the PvP better, and doing the ESO type of stuff. Working with you guys to do streams, as the top tier of players. So yeah, we got to start bringing those guys back, and I think we can. Our numbers show that people are not playing as much as they did right at release, but it's not as bad as at least our overall numbers. They look fine. It's just that some servers have had a lot of people move from them to other servers, which is why some people like the Miss is a complete ghost town, and other people like actually it's actually more crowded now than it was before, and that's just natural with servers. Is people are just gravitating towards different servers with their friends, but it's still a valid concern with Xeph.
I don't think the players are getting less, but it's just the same players. Like the PvP is stale. Like there's no new players, but there's no players leaving as much as well. Like it's just the same amount of people that has been since like maybe a month ago when paid tournament started.
But that's why I think that's a paid problem. if new people try out paid and they will meet one of our teams or whatever, they will just get most of the time stomped and they're getting bored of paid. But that's what I said. I mean, I see more and more people playing paid. I don't think that it's going to be empty or whatever. But I kind of like the system that we meet kind of like the same teams. I think that's that's a paid. I like it that we meet. That if we meet a team, we know we need to focus. In free, it was like, yeah, we can just derp around or whatever. So.
And that's where the matchmaking should really help with that, right? It's going to take those new players who come into the lobby and maybe they get stomped their first game out and they're just like, oh man, I don't want to do this. That matchmaking is going to mean that first game that they experience is going to be on their level and they won't get stomped. They're like, oh, let me play another one. And that's why we pulled off of custom arenas for a few weeks to say, let's get this in. And once we get that in, we'll go back to our main focus being custom arenas. Because we just think it's going to bring in those new players. And we've seen a lot of spikes recently internally from the numbers from the new patches coming out. A lot of PvE players will go over to start trying out the new map. Like there was a huge spike there. You guys might not have seen it in where you guys were for the tournaments, but there was a lot of people seem to really enjoy that map. So we're going to be putting out new maps for those guys as well, putting in the matchmaking, the custom arenas, so that they can maybe rent a place to go play on their own and learn the game with a group of people, with a guild. So just got to get those things in.
Yeah, talking
All right,
about
guys.
Awesome to hear.
All right, guys. Unfortunately, due to time restrictions, we're going to have to kind of cut it off here pretty quick.
Okay.
John, do you have any last messages for the community before we cut you off and send everyone home?
We are listening to you. I know a lot of times it can feel like we're not. We will try to post in the threads as much as we can. We'll try to do more stuff like this as much as we can. I think the matchmaking is a direct thing from just hearing how many of you really wanted to have that to protect yourselves as new players. We're like, okay, let's get that to the players as soon as we need to. Like, let's just, if we need to pull somebody and refocus our resources for a really short time just to get that in, let's do it really quick. Let's get it to the players and let's go back to doing what we were doing to help the overall esport game. So we are listening to you guys. We're excited about a lot of stuff coming up, which I can't talk about too much yet, but we're really excited about those things. So we're still listening to you guys. And just thanks for playing. It amazes me to see how much interest there is in the game. When you go and look at a lot of sites and see how many people are talking about PvP, it's really nice to see.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks for coming on the show today, and big thanks
for having
to
me.
Lowell, Varee, Xeph, Avalor, and Metor as well. Just for anyone listening, if you guys want to get involved in the stream, you can feel free to send an email to Frozire, that's FROZIRE at guildwarsguru.net. Basically, we're looking for someone to make an overlay for the stream. Next time we will be streaming. Obviously, we had the technical difficulties today, so we decided to do the recorded-only version, so apologies about that. Next time, we will definitely be streaming instead of just doing the VOD. So again, thanks, guys, and thanks for watching.